Here, what is the greatest gift that you possess? What is the greatest gift that you possess? And if we don't know the answer to that, just think about, like, how much of our lives have we spent not knowing that answer? And think about what it would be, how liberating it would be for us to step in and really know what our greatest gift is. And what is it that determines this? Because, friends, this is so mission critical. In fact, if you guys want to, if you can hit me up to 1,000, or yeah, I'll do 1,000 today. I'll do 1,000. I'll give you a copy of my book. 1,000 likes. I'll show you guys. I'll give you access to my book, and I would love to be able to share that with as many people as possible. So if you on TikTok land, if you could give me some likes, I would really appreciate that. And also, the other thing that I want you to do is get over to potentialzonegroup.com, where you see the recordings of this, because that's one thing about TikTok is once you do the lives, they go away. And I want you to keep this, retain this information, because what I'm going to be sharing here is really, really, really important. The other thing is I'd really appreciate it if you can share this video with some of your follows as well, because this is, there's so many, like, what is the greatest gift? Like, really thinking about that. What is the greatest gift? And like, there's a story in the Bible that I love, and this isn't about religion or the Bible or anything like that. So, but it's just a really great story in the Bible. And this guy works for a farmer, and then one day he finds this pearl, and he recognizes its value, and then he goes back and sells everything he owns. So sells everything he owns so that he can buy the land that that pearl's on. Now think about that. What in your life would you be willing to sell every single thing that you have in order to claim its value? What in your life would you bet everything you have on, so that, because you understand its value? See, now what's interesting is how a pearl comes to be, right? Some of you know this, some of you don't, but I'm going to share it with you, right? How a pearl is created is there is an irritant. An irritant gets inside of the clam. And then because it irritates the clam, what it does is it starts secreting nacre around it so that it's nice and smooth. And it just keeps doing it and doing that until it gets beautiful and amazing. Of course, now finding an original pearl is a lot more challenging than what it used to be, because they have figured out how to make pearls. They open up the clam, cut a little slit in it, stick an irritant in it, and it does the same thing, right? But this is what's important for you, is to understand what is your greatest gift? What is your greatest gift? Your greatest gift is your story. The greatest gift you have is you talking about how life has shown up for you. For you to be the narrator of every single thing that you've experienced in your life. Now think about how rich that is. Like, think about how amazing that would be for you to value every single moment of your life and every single thing that has happened to you. Now, I know some of us have had events in our life and some painful situations, and we've been victimized and abused and rejected and abandoned and all these things, right? But those were the opportunities for us to really step into our power, right? And we really do not understand what it means or what is possible for us until we're able to transcend the pain that we don't want to look at, right? And this is the amazing thing about what it is that I do. I get to see miracles every single day, right? And a miracle for me, I'd ask yourself, what is your definition of a miracle? So, because you probably have them going on all around you, but you haven't decided to define what a miracle means for you, right? A miracle for me is correction to truth, right? Like truth, correcting things back to truth, right? We weren't born with limitations. We weren't born with fears. We weren't born with all these programs that society and authority figures and things like that has conditioned us to believe. We weren't born that way, right? We were put in an environment that created to teach us how to survive. And when we learn how to survive and we want to thrive, it's very, very challenging, right? Because you'll never, ever create thriving in creation when you're focused on protecting yourself from being hurt, right? So this is your greatest gift, my friend. Your greatest gift is that you get to be the person that you've always wanted in your life. Now, I know that might sound crazy to some of you, right? Well, let me share a story. I'm going to get real here. I'm going to get really vulnerable, okay? So when I first got clean over 32 years ago, I had a friend of mine that catered weddings. And this guy was super, super freaking creative, brilliant, just like amazing, like off the charts. Like he used to have, like this was in North Dakota. He used to have Elizabeth Taylor used to fly him out to Hollywood just to make her cheesecake. Like this dude was creative on a level that unimaginable. I mean, amazing guy, amazing guy. And so this was back in my bodybuilding days and other things that I was doing that putting attention probably wasn't in a good place for me to be putting it, but it was what it was. That's where I was at in my time in my life. But anyway, we're doing this rehearsal dinner, and this is for a very wealthy farmer. And this farmer had 3 daughters and a son, and the son was the last child to marry off. And so I'm in this tuxedo, acting all butler-wise, going around pouring everybody their wine, and all of a sudden here, ding, 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 ding. Dad's going to do a toast, okay? And all of a sudden, all the women, just like all the daughters, like everybody started paying attention to this guy. I ran around, changed the glasses, poured champagne for him. And I stood up against this wall, and I had this doily over my arm, and I'm sitting there with a bottle of champagne. And this old boy got up there, and oh my gosh, he gave a speech about love that absolutely blew me away. Like there wasn't a dry eye in the house. I'm sitting there and my throat's all swollen up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is profound. Never heard anything like this in my life. Like like it's Hallmark on steroids, right? Well, the next day the wedding goes off. It was amazing, beautiful wedding, beautiful bride, amazing stuff. And then the day after that on Sunday, I just got in this funk. I was just really bummed out. Well, I go see my therapist on Monday, and I go see Ken, and I tell him what happened. And I'm like, dude, I'm just like bummed, man. It's just like, I realized that I have this sadness. He's like, what's up? And I'm like, well, I realized that I'm never going to have a dad like that. I'm not ever going to have a dad that's going to get up and speak at my wedding and have the history and all that stuff like what I witnessed. And Ken's sitting there shaking his head. And I'm like, really, dude? You're like sitting there shaking your head as I'm telling you, like pouring out my heart. He's like, you just don't get it yet, do you? And I'm like, well, apparently not. That's why I'm seeing you, right? And he said, someday you get to be that dad. I was like, wow, that's pretty profound. Well, I have not had that opportunity yet. Not married right now, and I don't know what's going to happen with that. But something else happened about 6 years ago. I went out to Florida and spent 10 days in deep trance, like not the whole day, obviously, but like 2 to 4 hours a day. Like it was pretty intense doing deep hypnotherapy work on myself with a friend of mine. And the last day he said, I want you to lay on that bed and I want you to allow everything to integrate. Just let it integrate and let it happen. And whew, wow, we went to some places on that last session. And I'm laying on that bed, and all of a sudden the tears just start going down the side of my face. Just freaking wow. Just like I purged so much. I had nothing left of me, man. I had purged everything that I knew how to purge. And I just start crying, and I just hear this feeling of letting go, like just letting go. I left it all there, and it was just amazing. And then out of nowhere, it's just like I was just like in this present moment, like I've never experienced present before. And then I heard this voice very clearly, and said, you get to be the dad to you that you've always wanted. That's our journey, my friend. That's our journey. And see, the magical thing about this, and this is what I'm going to be talking about, is because this is the one thing that stops us from stepping into everything, right? This is the one thing that holds everybody back. I don't care if you're an entrepreneur. I don't care if I'm working on that, okay? Because I do care. If you're an entrepreneur, a high achiever, Alicia's in the house, awesome, hola. And whatever it is that you do, there are things within our internal world that hold us back from stepping into our greatness, right? And I'm going to be talking about this tonight. And if you haven't signed up for the ROI Accelerator Challenge, I'd recommend you go do that like ASAP, because we're starting tonight. We are starting tonight at 5:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for those that sign up for the VIP. Otherwise, class is going to start at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And I'm going to really be sharing how to remember who it is that you really are. Because, see, friends, understand that our beliefs come from our authority figures. Our beliefs come from our authority figures, from our society, from intensity, from repetition. And when I say society, I'm talking about our environment, right? And so what's important about understanding about all this is that at some point, we get to go back and look at how are these beliefs serving us? And there's a lot of secondhand beliefs that we take on in our lives that are not actually even true, right? Because like when we get into this place, this is so important for you to, when we get into a place that we don't think we can make it, there's a very, very, very specific reason why you're in that situation, is so that you get to learn to trust yourself that you can move through it, right? Like that's your superhuman ability, is for you to understand that how many situations have you been in that you did not want to be in the middle of it. And yet it's the very thing that taught you to trust yourself when you expand at a whole different level. Right. And some of the things that I would encourage you to start looking at is, what are the filters that you run through how you show up, right? Like how much of your life do you filter, I hope this is right, I don't want to be wrong, right? Like just how many things do you filter through that one, being right or wrong? I don't look at things as right and wrong, right? I look at, is it efficient? Is it effective? Is it aligned with where it is that I want to go? Because see, we have been conditioned to beat ourselves up when we are off our path. Right? We have this wonderful thing called a beautiful educational system that taught us that. Our beautiful educational system taught us that we will be humiliated if we don't make the grade. We will be humiliated, right? Like they have special classes for those people, right? And that's the very thing that ends up driving so many of us, is like, I don't want to be that. I don't want to be rejected from my tribe. Like just think about how humiliating that is. You're building all these friendships with all these kids, and then all of a sudden they get back and say, well, you know, you're a little bit different, and let's put you in a different class and take you away from all the people that you are with at this point, because we need to get you to memorize all these things that really don't have a lot to do with anything in life. Now, friends, please hear me when I say this. I love education. I love to learn. I love to learn. I'm a big fan of education. I'm not a big fan of putting people in mental prisons. I'm not a big fan of that at all. And see, really, and I got a 7-year college degree, right? Like I was hook, line, and sinker into the system, because I was taught, just like everybody else, that you need to go to school, get a good education so that you can get a good job, right? The other part of it, why it took me 7 years, was I hid in college, right? Like I was afraid to get out into the real world. I remember the day I graduated from high school and I went, oh crap, it's over. Now I got to go out and be a real adult. And I sucked at it. I was not very good at it, right? Like at 19 years old, I almost ended my life and my sister's life. That's how good I did at being an adult, because I just didn't know. I just had nothing inside of me that felt like I could do anything that was worthwhile. But see, it took almost ending my life and my sister's life for me to start getting my attention of where I'm at today, right? Is start letting go of that egoic shell that we take on to protect ourselves, right? And it's interesting how many people we take on within ourselves and I've already done a video on this, but it's worth repeating a bunch of times, because when I heard it the first time, I was just like, oh my gosh, that is so profound. And that is the filters that we run our experiences through, right? And we think it's noble to beat ourselves up. We think, we have been conditioned to believe that it's noble to beat ourselves up, that it's noble to suffer, that it's noble to work 18 hours a day, that it's noble to push ourselves beyond the brink. We believe that's noble. And yet when you ask somebody to accept a compliment, they think that's arrogant to accept a compliment. Like, do you think that's all backwards? Like, absolutely, it's all backwards, right? Because humbleness is recognizing and celebrating value, right? But yet we've been conditioned that we're supposed to play small, that we're not worthy, that we're saved by something else. No. So I said, it's not people that fight, it's levels of understanding that fight, right? And this is what I love teaching in the Potential Code. I have a course that, like, it's an encyclopedia of learning how to step into your fullest potential, right? And when you step into, before you awake, things people that are not serving you will be stripped away. Yep. Yeah, they will be. I've experienced it the last 2 years of my life. Like, abso-freaking-lutely, they will be stripped away. And see, but think about that. Having somebody stripped away that is not aligned with who you truly are, right? Like, how many relationships, I'm talking to myself, I've said, how many relationships do we have hoping that person accepts us? Why are we so focused on them accepting us? Is because we haven't accepted us, right? And see, when we start recognizing who we are and what we really bring to the table and what we're able to overcome, and we are autonomous, then we can get into environments that support and complement our autonomy, rather than getting into environments hoping, like us go. Now I get it. There are people that I have relationships with that there's a mutual benefit for both of us to be in that relationship, right? But there's also other relationships that I have, that I hold them up, I lift them up, right? Like that's what I do as a coach. It's what I do as a trainer. It's what I'm doing now, is pulling people forward, calling them forward, right? And then I have very select people that I can actually have conversations with that pull me forward, right? Because if your ideas and your inspiration is not welcomed in the environment, guess what you just did? You just domesticated it. You just domesticated it. And what if that was the inspiration that literally could move mountains, right? Like think about the power of a seed. Like go walk around concrete. You can see concrete all over the place, the little tiny weeds and little tiny trees that ended up breaking through the concrete because it's wanting to live pushed out through the concrete, right? So this is the question. This is the gift. What are you committed to? What are you really committed to, my friend? We don't get what we want, we get what we're committed to. And see, until we can start looking at how the negativity serves us, we will continue to do it until we recognize, what am I getting out of this? Right? What do I get out of? And I know I don't like saying this, but it is what it is. Like I didn't like hearing this the first time. It's like one of our common archetypes that every person has, there's 4 of them, but one of them is the victim. Right? Like we can get really invested into that story, right? And someone comes along and says, hey, wait a minute, what do you think about this? Like, okay, got it. But how did you create that? What do you mean, how did I create that? I didn't create that. This person did this to me and this person did that to me and blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool, got it. What part did you contribute to that? Well, what do you mean? I didn't play any part of this. I don't have any control over what happens to other people. I don't control how people show up in my life. Yeah, you do. You have all kinds of impact on other people. So one great way to start looking at that is asking yourself, how did I create this? How did I create this? Now, that doesn't mean that every single thing in your life is a reflection of what you created, but you are the one that's going to create the meaning of the experience. You are the one that is going to create the meaning of the experience, right? So this is why I'm doing the ROIAcceleratorChallenge.com. Like I am super excited for this because I have watched for the last 3 years, watching people literally be programmed into insanity by the media and social media. I have watched relationships be absolutely devastated because somebody got seduced into believing something that was not aligned with the relationship. That was my journey, right? Like I invited somebody into an organization that me and another guy built, and this guy totally seduced the whole thing and it blew up. No longer around. It's no longer around, right? So I'm very passionate in taking what I have learned through incredible amounts of pain to support people so that they don't get blindsided when they think something's different than what it really is, right? Because see, we can create these fantasies and it can keep us from looking at what is really happening, right? And some of it's called fantasy bonding. We can look at it that way. But the other part of it is, and this is going to be one of the quotes. In fact, I'm going to start teaching here in about 2 hours, right? So I'm super excited about this. This is going to be the best work I've ever done. Like I love this, right? And case in point. So I can't tell you how many people I have had speak over me saying, you're gonna lead a church someday. You're gonna lead men. You're gonna lead a men's movement. All that stuff. I can't tell you how many times I've had that spoken over me. Okay, and I just went, no, not gonna happen. Now I've coached thousands of men. I've done lots of amazing things. Not about me, but I've witnessed some incredible stuff, right? And inside of me, there was always this time of like, I don't want to do it the way that it's been done. I don't want to do it the way it's been done. Right. And then I can look back on it and see how divine was guiding me to get me where I'm at today. Because what if you let go of how it's supposed to show up? And today, I believe that I am doing what I was called to do. And it looks much different than what other people thought. But what they spoke over me, I received. It just didn't show up the way that they thought it was going to show up. And it's showing up the way that is totally aligned with who I am. Right. And because I did that, I have been put into situations that expanded what it is that I thought was possible. Right. Like what is possible? You understanding what is possible is going to be a reflection of the filters that you use to define that, which is our wounds. Right. Because we don't want to re-experience something that has happened in the past. Right. So our ego jumps in there and says, okay, let's create all these beliefs. Let's create all these filters. Let's create all these systems and programs and apps so that we don't ever have that happen again. But then what we do is we project that out into the future. It's called proception, not perception. It's called proception. So much of our life is about projecting out into the future stuff that has happened in our past, right? But I'm all about teaching you to remember who you really are, right? For you to really remember what it is inside of you that has given you the ability to be the most extraordinary human being in the world. There is nobody, let me get really intentional about this. There is nobody on this planet, nobody ever has, is, or ever will be as extraordinary as you. Now, however that lands for you is how it lands for you, but it's truth. It's truth, because there is no other person that is, that was, is, or going to be like you. So you're the only version of you that you can be the best version of, right? And nobody gets to offer this wonderful thing called life like you do. Nobody has learned the things that you've learned. Nobody's experienced the things you've experienced. Nobody's had the relationships that you've had. Like, you've got this plethora of progress that you have gone through to create this wonderful, energetic signature, divine print of who you are. And nobody else ever gets to experience that. Ever, ever, ever. And if you think about, you really think about whether you believe in creation or the Big Bang, whatever you believe about that, understand, look at all the things. I can't even comprehend the number. Like, millions and millions of people that all had to happen the way that it happened to create you. Like, just think about that. Like, that is extraordinary. Everything that's had to happen for you to be where you're at right now today, for you to be born, to come into this world. Think about all the things that have happened. It's pretty extraordinary. It's pretty extraordinary, right? And so the more you learn to embrace that, and the more you step into that, the more you value this thing called life, the more you're going to be willing to be bad at something, what you would define as bad. See, I'm going to be doing some things tonight I haven't done. And I intentionally did it that way so that I get to learn how to do it. Okay. And I've never coached. I've never set up a program like this. Like, have I coached programs? I've coached many programs, right? But I've never set it up this way. So this is going to be a new thing for me that I get to learn. And I got very intentional in how I wanted to create this, right? So I set up a win-win before I've even started doing it, right? Because I get to learn something new, that I get to be a part of my progression, that is going to support me and complement me in where it is that I want to eventually end up. Not eventually end up, I'm ending up there, just at different levels, right? Like, one of my intentions this year, one of my intentions I set this year was I wanted to be an international speaker. I wanted to speak on an international platform. Guess what happened last weekend? I was speaking to a whole bunch of group of people in Zoom in Malaysia, right? Boom. Now I'm an international speaker. I was already. I mean, I've spoke to people in Canada and things like that, but I knew what I meant by my intention because I set that intention. Boom, there it is, right? And the next couple months, some of the other intentions that I set up are going to become a reality as well, right? But what is it? See, imagine not having disappointment in your life. Imagine not having disappointment in your life. Now, I need to qualify that statement. Does that mean Jeff never gets disappointed? Nope. Doesn't mean that. Doesn't mean that. It means mastery, right? It means, like, you look at Justin Timberlake said something one time that was just profound. He goes, people watch me dance and watch me do what I do, and they go, wow, that's amazing. I would do anything to do that. I would give my life to do that. He's like, I did. I did give my life to do this, right? And he says, they don't look at the broken bones. They don't look at the calluses. They don't look at the blood. They don't look at all the things that I've had to go through in order to make this look easy. Mastery makes it look easy, right? But if he stopped doing it, guess what? He would start gaining on atrophy. He would start creating inertia, right? He would start creating limitations within himself that would cause him, that would impact his ability to keep moving forward. That's mastery. Mastery is doing it over and over and over and over until you don't have to use any cognitive ability to process through it, right? Like, I have moments that I'm disappointed, but now I can look at it and go, oh, okay, cool. I can totally see how I set myself up to be disappointed with this. I had expectations that were not met, right? But understanding that it's learning how to let go of the outcome. I heard it from Jay Shetty. He said something that was really, really powerful. He said, unattachment is not being attached to the thing that you have. He says, it's not being afraid of letting it go. Like, it doesn't own you. It's good to have things, but not let that thing own you. And I was like, yeah, that's what it's all about. Because, see, friends, understanding fearlessness. Fearlessness is letting go of the anticipation of loss. If you knew what I had to go through to learn that lesson and who I learned that from, I remember that one very well. That was a very painful lesson, but I'm very grateful that it happened because it has supported me exponentially, being able to move people out of where they're at to where they want to be in an even shorter amount of time. Okay, so if you are ready to step into your fullest greatness and take your life to a whole other level, whatever that looks like, I can promise you, you going to the ROIacceleratorchallenge.com is going to support you in doing that. ROIacceleratorchallenge.com. I'm going to be bringing the best training that I have ever brought in my life, and I'm going to show you how you can get from where you're at to where you want to be in the shortest amount of time. And I'm going to show you literally how to rewrite the programs within your subconscious so that they are aligned with what it is that you want to create. And I'm going to teach you how to influence yourself and other people so that you can be able to step out. I want people to understand that they are the golden goose. You are the golden goose. You are the one that is creating your life, and you get to choose however you want to create that, and choose it in a way that is aligned with who you truly are, not what somebody decided or programmed you to be, right? I never in my wildest dreams, ever in my life did I ever aspire to do what I'm doing today. But yet I look back and I can see every single thing that I did, everything that I had did. I'm not a grammar teacher, okay? Nor do I pretend to be one. Did I ever imagine that I would be doing what I'm doing right now? I didn't imagine I was going to live to be 56 years of age. I didn't think I was going to live to be past 25. I didn't want to live to be past 25. Divine has a great way of teaching us. God doesn't call the qualified. God qualifies the called. So you have a calling inside of you. I want to do everything I can to support you to call it forward so that you get to share your magic with us, right? So if you're ready to share your magic with the world, get over to ROIacceleratorchallenge.com. You'll be glad you did. And until next time, my friend, be blessed. Hope you have an amazing weekend. And I appreciate each and every one of you. And as always, live like your life depends on it, because it does. Take care. Be blessed.